Imagine you swipe your credit card, right, to buy a coffee.
Yeah, just a normal Tuesday morning.
Exactly. And in the, what, 2 seconds it takes for that little green check mark to pop up on the terminal, your digital request is doing something wild.
It really is.
It's traveling from this super sleek, ultra-modern smartphone app, and it goes directly into a massive, dusty computer system that was built literally before the public internet even existed.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, honestly.
It is. And today we are doing a deep dive into this, well, this massive multi-million-dollar panic that is happening right now inside the world's biggest banks, hospitals, and insurance companies.
The real core infrastructure.
Right. And more importantly for you listening, we're looking at how smaller tech firms are poised to just swoop in and take their money.
It is a phenomenal hidden economy. I mean, everyone is out there looking at consumer AI platforms or the newest social app, and they are completely ignoring the fact that the actual plumbing of the global economy is, well, it's currently rusting out.
Yeah, rusting out is the perfect way to put it. And the craziest part is that mid-sized tech consultancies, the exact firms perfectly positioned to fix this plumbing, they're just like walking right past it.
Leave money on the table.
So much money. So today's deep dive is based on a really fascinating piece of research from Code Aura. It's titled, How to Sell Multi-Million-Dollar Modernization Deals Without a Legacy Engineering Team.
It's a great source, really eye-opening.
Definitely. And our mission today is for you to uncover exactly how mid-sized consultancies, managed service providers, and agile dev shops can use an AI-first approach to capture more business. Like how they can survive in this hugely competitive environment and actually thrive to get massive enterprise clients. Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay. To really grasp the scale of the money on the table here, you have to look at the pressure cooker these massive enterprises are in right now. I mean, we are talking about highly regulated industries.
Right, the heavy hitters.
Exactly. Banking, healthcare, manufacturing. These sectors are desperate, like truly desperate, to modernize their mission-critical systems. The stat from the source that just always blows my mind is that something like 43% of banking systems today still rely on COBOL.
43%. Okay, we should probably define that for anyone who hasn't, been in a computer science history class recently.
Fair enough, yeah.
So we're talking about COBOL. It's a programming language created in the late 1950s and 60s. And it basically acts as the invisible plumbing for global finance.
Right, running on mainframes.
Exactly, mainframes, which are basically these giant room-sized industrial calculators. And they're incredibly reliable, sure, but they were built in an era when storage was measured in kilobytes, not terabytes.
Yeah, and modernizing those mainframes isn't just a fun IT vanity project for a bank, It is an absolute existential requirement at this point.
Because the regulations.
Regulations are a huge part of it. They are facing incredibly strict compliance mandates from governments, but also there are massive security vulnerabilities because, well, old code just can't handle modern cyber threats.
Right, a hacker in 2026 versus code from 1980.
Exactly. And beyond that, it's just basic consumer demand for digital transformation. If that bank wants to offer, say, real-time fractional stock trading on a smartphone,
Which everyone expects now.
right, that modern cloud app eventually has to communicate with that 1970s mainframe.
Which creates a terrifying bottleneck. Because the workforce that actually understands how to make that 1970s mainframe talk to a 2026 smartphone app is, well, it's vanishing.
It's literally aging out.
Right. The developers who wrote and maintained that COBOL code are quite literally in their 70s and 80s. They are retiring.
If they haven't already.
Yeah. And fewer new engineers are entering this space because, think about it, graduating computer science students want to work on modern AI architecture, right? Not a green screen terminal running code older than their parents.
Yeah, definitely. And this raises an important question. If the demand from these massive enterprises is skyrocketing and the traditional supply of human experts is literally aging out of the workforce, who fills the gap?
Well, the default answer used to be the giant system integrators, right?
Yeah.
Like the massive multi-billion-dollar global consulting firms.
Historically, yes, absolutely. But those giant firms are stretched entirely too thin across way too many of these transformation programs right now.
Because they have the same talent shortage.
Exactly. Specialized legacy talent is incredibly expensive for them to hire, and it's almost impossible to scale. They just don't have enough COBOL veterans to go around.
Which is the opportunity.
Right. That creates a massive strategic opening for smaller, highly capable development firms to step in.
Right. It's basically like finding a chest full of gold, but walking away because you assume you need some, like, 19th century antique locksmith to open it, completely ignoring the power drill you have right in your hand.
That's a great analogy.
But those smaller firms are actively choosing not to step in. If you are listening to this and you run a 50-person managed service provider or an agile dev shop, you probably look at these giant enterprise contracts and think, my team is busy keeping up with the latest cloud architecture. I cannot ask them to learn mainframes.
Yeah, it feels like a distraction.
Right. And the Code Aurora source actually breaks this hesitation down into 3 specific myths that are keeping these capable firms on the sidelines. Let's dig into those. The first one is that foundational belief. We don't have legacy expertise.
Yeah, the assumption is that you need an army of expensive specialists. For decades, legacy systems required deep experience-based knowledge. You had to understand what we call tightly coupled architecture.
Okay, let's translate that. Tightly coupled basically means the system is like a tangled ball of yarn, right?
Yes, exactly.
You pull one string over here in, say, the payroll module, and suddenly the tax reporting module on the other side of the system just completely unravels.
That's a perfect visualization. Because the code was written 50 years ago, often by dozens of different people who, by the way, never documented their work.
Of course not.
Right. So the logic is just deeply intertwined. Deciphering it depended entirely on finding someone who had spent decades living inside that specific environment.
Like someone who just instinctively knew which string not to pull.
Exactly. So mid-sized firms look at their roster of 20-something cloud engineers and they assume, well, we can't credibly sell or deliver this work.
Hey, wait, I have to stop you there. I want to look at the second myth the source brings up, which is discovery takes too long and is too risky. And honestly, I want to push back a bit, because aren't those totally valid fears?
Oh, absolutely.
Right, because if I'm running a 50-person dev firm, you are asking me to take on a hospital's 40-year-old patient database. If we break it, operations stop. People could literally die.
It's extremely high stakes.
And the way these massive deals start is with an RFP, a request for proposal, where the hospital asks me to give them a fixed price to fix an unknown quantity of tangled yarn. The pre-sales discovery alone, just paying my engineers to manually read millions of lines of code to figure out how to even write the proposal, it would bankrupt my firm before we even win the contract. I'd run away too.
No, you're right. Those fears are entirely grounded in reality, or at least they were. When documentation is non-existent and the business logic is buried under 30 years of incremental patches, the cost of simply trying to understand the system used to drastically outweigh the perceived benefit of winning the deal.
Right, the math just didn't make sense.
Exactly. Firms would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just on the discovery phase, and they would still end up misscoping the project because humans simply cannot read 3 million lines of code without missing a few hidden dependencies.
It's impossible. And if you somehow survive the proposal phase without going bankrupt, you hit myth number 3 from the source, right? We can't deliver without specialized teams.
Yeah, the dread that your modern software engineers are going to completely fail when they actually try to migrate the old architecture into a modern cloud environment.
Right. So if all these fears are valid, how do we get past them?
Well, here is the critical pivot that the source introduces. The actual requirement for winning and delivering these deals has changed.
What do you mean?
The requirement is no longer having experts. The requirement is achieving understanding. And those two things are no longer the same.
Oh, I see what you mean. So the firm isn't selling their inherent knowledge of COBOL. They are selling their ability to generate a map of the client's system faster than anyone else.
Yes. What's fascinating here is how this shift completely rewrites the mechanics of tech consulting. We are moving from a specialist-dependent model to an intelligence-driven model.
Intelligence-driven, okay.
Yeah. In the traditional model, progress depended entirely on human interpretation. Teams of senior engineers had to literally sit in a room, manually trace variables across thousands of files, and try to reverse engineer undocumented logic.
Which sounds miserable.
It was agonizingly slow, wildly inconsistent, and highly prone to human error.
Right. So modifying legacy code without AI is essentially like trying to pull a single block out of a massive Jenga tower while blindfolded. You pull one piece of code, and you have absolutely no idea if the whole banking system is going to collapse.
And an AI platform like Codora acts like an X-ray machine for that Jenga tower. It shows you the structural weight and connection of every single block before you even touch it, so you know exactly what is safe to pull.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because we need to explain the actual mechanism here. How does it actually do that?
Right.
Because in the past, Understanding a system meant a human trying to read millions of lines of code where the variables were named random gibberish like, XYZ19.
Exactly. No context whatsoever.
Right. What makes the intelligence-driven model different is its ability to ingest that entire spaghetti code simultaneously. The AI mathematically traces every interaction. It looks at the conditional statements, the data flows, the input and output parameters, and it maps the dependencies across the entire system in a matter of hours or days.
And it extracts the business logic. That's the key term.
Right, because the client doesn't care about the code itself.
Exactly. The bank doesn't care about the COBOL code. They care about the business rule that says, if a customer has less than $500, charge a fee.
Ah.
The AI reads the ancient code, identifies that underlying business rule, and translates it into plain English documentation. It does in a weekend what would take a team of human specialists 6 months.
Wow. That completely flips the script on the big system integrators.
It really does.
I mean, the competitive advantage used to belong to whoever had the deepest bench of retired mainframe programmers. Now, the advantage belongs to whoever can deploy AI to unlock system understanding the fastest. AI shifts the entire economics of delivery.
And once you have that rapid understanding, all those traditional barriers we talked about earlier begin to collapse. You don't need a COBOL historian if you have an intelligence layer that can instantly translate and map the COBOL environment for your modern cloud engineers.
Right. But I guess generating a map of the code is just a party trick if you don't know what to do with it, right?
Sure.
Once you have that clarity, how does a mid-sized firm actually convince a bank to let them touch the system? The source lays out a very specific, repeatable 3-step playbook using Codora to capture this business.
Yeah, let's go through it. Step 1 in this playbook is rapid system understanding. Instead of committing to weeks of manual code review just to answer an RFP, a firm uses Codora to ingest the client's existing code base and establish a baseline of truth.
And a really crucial distinction the source makes here, and I think this is so important, the goal of this first step is not absolute perfection. It's clarity.
Right, a baseline.
Exactly. You are generating structured documentation that your technical engineers can use, but more importantly, documentation that the non-technical business stakeholders at the bank can actually read. You take the client from saying, we have no idea what this black box does, to we have a clear visual map of our own operations.
Which naturally leads to step 2, structured discovery. Because you now have that baseline map, your discovery process with the client is highly focused.
You aren't guessing anymore.
Exactly. You aren't asking them broad, exploratory questions about how they think their system works. You are pointing at the AI-generated map, validating specific assumptions, and identifying high-risk components incredibly early in the conversation.
Oh, and this directly answers the fear of bankrupting the firm during the proposal phase.
Yep, it eliminates the pre-sales dilemma.
You drastically reduce the risk of misscoping a multi-million-dollar project because you can actually see the hidden dependencies. You know exactly how many tangled strings there are before you sign the contract and commit to a price.
And that visibility allows you to confidently move to step 3. Phased modernization.
Right, because you don't want to do it all at once.
Exactly. You don't walk into a hospital and suggest ripping and replacing their entire patient database over a long weekend. That's insane.
Right.
You use the dependency map to break the delivery into controlled, manageable chunks. You might modernize the patient intake module first, ensure it's stable, and then move on to the billing module.
And that aligns perfectly with what massive enterprise buyers actually want. Like a highly regulated insurance provider doesn't want reckless speed. They want controlled, auditable, validated progress.
Yes. And through all of this, the AI isn't just analyzing code in a vacuum. Codora acts as a massive force multiplier across the consultancy's entire team. It solves the single point of failure bottleneck.
Okay, let's put a face to that bottleneck. So in a traditional setup, you have, let's call him Bob, right? Bob is the senior mainframe engineer.
Well, I know a Bob.
Right. Bob is 74, he wants to retire to Florida, and he is literally the only person on Earth who knows why the wire transfer module crashes if you run it on a leap year. If Bob gets the flu, the whole modernization project stops.
It's terrifying for the project manager, but with this playbook, Bob's intrinsic knowledge is effectively digitized.
It's distributed.
Exactly. The AI-powered interface lets any modern cloud engineer on your team query the old system and retrieve contextual insights without needing to bother Bob. Furthermore, the AI actively supports the actual code migration. It helps convert that legacy logic into modern languages like Java or Python, keeping the fundamental business rules intact.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the mid-sized firm listening right now? Like, the technological shift is incredible, but the core focus of the source material is really about the business case.
Right, the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does a development firm use this to not just survive, but fundamentally thrive and capture more business in a hyper-competitive landscape?
Well, the revenue impact is staggering. Legacy modernization is rarely a one-off project. The source emphasizes that this is a long-tail opportunity.
Because it takes years.
Right. When a consultancy gets its foot in the door by offering a rapid AI-driven assessment, that naturally evolves into the actual re-architecture phase. And then that evolves into the migration, the system integration, and the ongoing optimization. It unlocks massive multi-year account expansion.
Wow. And you win those initial deals through incredibly fast sales cycles. Think about the posture of your firm when you walk into a pitch. The giant system integrator sits down and says, "We need a 6-month paid discovery phase just to look around your system before we can tell you how much it will cost to fix."
Meanwhile, you walk in.
Right. Your mid-sized firm walks into the same room a week later, hands the executives a visual map of their own system, and says, "We used AI to map your dependencies. Here's exactly where the risk is, and here's our data-backed proposal." I mean, the immense trust that builds is unbeatable.
It really is. And you execute that work with significantly higher margins. Because you aren't forced to hire incredibly scarce legacy talent at $300 an hour, your project profitability skyrockets.
Because you're using your regular team.
Exactly. By reducing the dependency on that specialized talent pool, a consultancy can use smaller, highly efficient, AI-augmented teams to pull off massive enterprise projects.
It completely changes the competitive positioning.
Yeah.
You're suddenly punching way above your weight class and beating the global integrators.
Oh.
The client's buying question has fundamentally flipped. They're no longer sitting across the boardroom table asking, "How many COBOL engineers do you employ?" They're asking, "How fast can you help us understand our own mess so we can finally move forward?"
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just about a neat new software tool hitting the market. This is an entirely new definition of eligibility in the tech sector.
That's a great way to frame it.
Being qualified to handle the world's most critical infrastructure no longer mean having all the answers memorized up front. It means having a credible, AI-first methodology to find those answers quickly, structure them logically, and safely execute the migration.
It's an incredibly empowering reality for anyone running a tech service business today. We started this deep dive looking at Paradox, right? A multi-million-dollar market crippled by a shrinking pool of legacy talent, while capable modern firms sat on the sidelines paralyzed by very valid fears of risk and complexity.
But the shift to an intelligence-driven delivery model completely dismantles those barriers.
Exactly. It turns a massive liability, decades of undocumented, tangled spaghetti code into a structured, navigable asset. It allows agile firms to step in, mitigate the risk through early visibility, and capture deals that were previously walled off by the giant integrators.
And they can really thrive doing it.
And for you listening, this is why this matters so much. In a world where the daily news is currently obsessed with, AI writing our marketing emails or generating funny images of cats.
Which is fun, but...
Right. But the real landscape-altering aha moment is using AI to decode decades of foundational enterprise logic.
Yeah.
It completely levels the playing field for mid-sized tech firms.
It's the real industrial revolution of AI.
But it also leaves us with a really profound thought to chew on as we wrap up. If tools like Codora become the perfect translators of old, undocumented human code, what actually happens to human institutional knowledge?
Oh, wow.
Right. Are we fast approaching a future where our entire global digital foundation, the banking systems, the healthcare grids, the insurance networks, are maintained entirely by AI translating for us, essentially making the machines the only true historians of our digital past? Let that sink in.
It is a fascinating horizon. The machine's explaining our own history to us so we can build the future.
So the next time you see a massive enterprise modernization deal sitting on the table, don't walk away just because you don't have an antique locksmith on staff. Pick up the X-ray machine, turn on the lights, and get to work.